Welcome back, guys, to another YouTube tutorial. It's your boy Sam, and today, we're talking about CSS Grid, and I'll try my best to make this tutorial 5 minutes. We'll cover all the basics, everything. So you know what? Let's get to it. Grid layouts are fundamental to the design of websites, and CSS Grid Layout module is the most powerful and easiest tool for creating it. I personally think that it's a lot better than, for example, Bootstrap. The module has gotten native support by major browsers like Safari, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, so I believe that all front-end developers should learn this technology in some point or some instance in their future. In this video, I'll walk you through the very basics of CSS Grid as quickly as possible. I'll be leaving out everything you shouldn't care about until you've understood the basics, because as we say, a solid foundation makes the house better. Now let's actually create our first grid layout. The two core ingredients for CSS Grid are the wrapper, which is the parent, and then the items, which is the children. The wrapper is the actual grid, and the items are the components inside the grid. Here's the markup for a wrapper with 6 items in it. So we start with HTML, we'll create a wrapper, and I'll put 1 inside, and I'll put 2 inside, and I'll put 3 inside, and I'll put 4 inside, 5, and 6 inside. And this is all we do for the HTML. To turn our wrapper div into a grid, we simply give it a display of grid. But this doesn't do anything yet, as we haven't defined how we want our grid to look like. It'll simply stack 6 divs on top of each other. So now you can see the styling here. We created our div. We have this here with item 1, 1, 2, 6. And after that, we just style them, give them a different color, and make sure that all of them have a text align of center. So the 1, 2, 3 is in the center instead of here. I've added a bit of styling, but that has nothing to do with CSS Grid, so I don't have to show you guys that. Now let's talk about the columns and the rows. To make it two-dimensional, we'll need to define the columns and the rows. Let's create 3 columns and 2 rows. We'll use the grid template row and the grid template column property. As we've written the 3 value for grid template columns, we'll get 3 columns. We'll get 2 rows as we specify 2 values for the grid template rows. The values indicate how wide we want our columns to be, 100 pixels, and how tall we want our rows to be, 50 pixels. Here's the result. So we'll say dot wrapper. I'll give it a display of grid. I'll give it a grid template column of 100 pixels, 100 pixels, 100 pixels. And we'll do a grid template row. I'll make that 50 pixel and 50 pixel. And just change the color to white. So we can see it right here. And this is how it looks right now. To make sure you properly understand the relationship between the values and how the grid looks, take a look at this example as well. We'll go back to CodePen and actually write this code, and you can get the snippet of the whole tutorial on my GitHub gist. I'll leave it down in the description below. I'm going to comment this out. Now we'll create another dot wrapper, a display of grid again, and a grid template column of 200 pixel, 50 pixel, and 100 pixel. You can see how it's looking now with only grid template column. With grid template row, we get to actually make it, so it's a 50 pixel, 20 pixel. So this how it's looking. You can see this is 50 and this is 20. The next thing we'll need to learn is how to place items on the grid. This is where you get superpowers as it makes it dead simple to create layout. Let's create a 3x3 grid using the same markup as before. Display grid, grid template, row, columns, 100 pixel, 100 pixel, 100 pixel, grid template rows of 100 pixel, 100 pixel, 100 pixel. And I hope you notice that we only see a 3x2 grid on the page. While we defined it as a 3x3 grid, that's because we only have 6 items to fill the grid with. If we had 3 more, then the lowest row would be filled as well. To position and resize the items, we'll target them and use the grid column and the grid row properties. I'll say grid dash column start. Starts at 1 and grid dash column and it ends at 3. But now I'm sure you're saying we have 3 columns. Why is it only taking um why is it only taking 2? Well, we have 3 columns, but we have 4 column lines. So we have one line here, we have another line here, and another line here, and another one. If we wanted to take the whole thing, we'll change this to 4. So 4 now you can see it takes the whole width. What we're saying here is that we want item 1 to start on the first grid line and end on the 4th column line. In other words, it will take up the entire row. Here's how that plays out on the screen. Are you confused why we have 4 column lines when we only have 3 columns? Now I want you to take a look at this image where I've drawn the column lines in black. Notice that when we're using all the rows in the grid, when we made the first item take up the entire first row, it pushes the rest of the items down. Finally, I would like to show you a simpler way of writing the syntax above. To make it sure that you've understood this concept properly, we'll rearrange the items a little bit. Now I can do the same thing, just copy it, take it to the third one, paste it here, but this will start at 2 and it will end at 4. So you see it starts at 2, the second line, which is this, first line is here, second line, third line, fourth line. Starts at the second line and ends at the fourth line. But now if I say switch this to row instead of column and this to row, you can see it's at the second row line, first row line, second row line, third row line, fourth row line. Starts at the second row line and it ends at the fourth row line. I can change this to 4. Now it looks like this. And the fourth item, 2 and 4. And this one I can change it to 3. And now you can see that everything actually is on the right spot. So this starts from 1 to 3. So it creates a little bit of space for 2. And then 3 starts from row 2 to 4. And then this starts from column 2 to 4. And then these two just take up the space here. And that's it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments and I will for sure answer you. I will be continuing this CSS tutorial. We'll have a series on this where we actually talk about different things about CSS and all the things you actually need to know to be a front-end developer. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Like I said earlier, like, subscribe, and I'm going to wrap this up and I'll see you all in the next YouTube video.